Welcome to the Boca Voice and Fact or Fiction Friday. Today, we're fortunate enough to have Derek Vander Ploeg with us. He is kind of a legend in town. He has developed and been an architect on a lot of the developments in town. I am very fortunate. Not only has he been in this space, he helped design the space for Pinnacle Advertising and what's now become the studios of the Boca Voice. And Derek, thank you for joining us, and it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think it's great being here.
Well, you have been a fixture in town, and you've been such an intricate part of the development of Boca Raton. You've been, I can't go anywhere in town where we're talking about development or even the Parks and Recreation meetings and the newest things that we've been doing in regards to some of the waterfront parks and things that we've been doing, where you're not there and in the center of kind of all of it. So kind of give me some of your perspective.
Well, certainly when I moved the practice here from Fort Lauderdale, basically in 1980, although we had been doing work in Boca Raton for many years prior to that, late 60s, sort of found a new home, different than Fort Lauderdale, and one that was up and coming. And so for those who haven't been here this long, about 80% of everything you see here today wasn't here in 1980. The Town Center Mall was just being opened. I-95 was just kind of being opened. Glades Road was 4 lanes at best, mostly 2, and didn't go through the federal highway. So as you see all these changes, the firm has always been involved in the community, whether we were here in Fort Lauderdale or any community that we practice in, and take an active role, and have really attempted to help craft many of the ordinances and things, especially as it relates to the downtown.
So as we talk about the downtown resurgence and the redevelopment of downtown, you know, I look at the downtown corridor and a lot of the businesses that are in downtown, honestly, during the late or the early 2000, 2005, 2006, when that bubble kind of hit in 2007, 8, they got hurt really bad. And now as you kind of look at this the rejuvenation of downtown and things start to kind of happen and come up and you start seeing this redevelopment of downtown, it's now starting to happen. What do you think of all this redevelopment and the changes?
Well, I having sort of been at this since the very beginning, when it's certainly a good thing, especially in the regard right now to the amount of residential development that's occurred.
When you look at what's there now versus what's going up, it's a lot better looking, and a lot more better technology going into these buildings, a lot safer, hurricane-proof. Yeah. And so we're having a lot better opportunities. I know there's some things going back and forth about, is it Mizner-esque, is it not Mizner-esque? But if you look at what's Mizner-esque versus what's there currently right now, currently what's now is not Mizner-esque. So what's being replaced is, I think, there's an argument for it's certainly a lot better looking than what's currently there.
Well, in all indifference to Mr. Mizner, and certainly he did a lot of work in this area and so forth, but even at the resort and club, it was actually Schultz and Weaver who finished it, another architect from New York that had done, or a group that had done a good bit of work for Flagler, and many of the breakers, some burned down, some this, that. But were sort of the preeminent hotel architects of their time in the golden era of hotels, grand hotels. And so it has to do more with the organization of his buildings, not the physical, is a coral rock and a certain amount of finishes or decoration, and how the porticos are to keep you out of the sun, so you could walk along from one building to another, or this area to another, or an interior garden or landscaped area, and to try and tie those buildings together. We've just gone through some of that same discussion with a project called Mizner 200, and that while it conformed to the written requirements of the ordinances, there was a certain piece that was missing, and fortunately, I guess, the group that's developing it, some of us got together, and I believe there's going to be a very meaningful resolution of it. And it's certainly not a Mediterranean revival building. It's a, all these buildings are contemporary buildings. They're modern buildings. So that they aren't as constrained as the older buildings were by a variety of reasons. So, and I think it's going to be a spectacular project as a result of some of these changes that they've made.
So what do you think the impact of having the Mandarin Oriental coming to town is?
I think that's huge. I think that's really huge, especially when you consider the resort and club and their convention facilities. I know in talking to some of the people over at the resort and club, they welcome it.
I know, talking to John Tolbert, he thinks it's huge. It gives him such great opportunity to be able to bring in more conferences, especially with that and the Hyatt right up the street. The Hyatt, in between the Hyatt giving that that lower cost product, but still a quality product. And then you have the Mandarin product, which is that higher cost product, but a five-star product, right? And then you have the Mandarin residences that are going to be right next to it. John said that's just going to increase his ability to bring more conferences and more business conferences to his hotel.
Yeah, and he's absolutely correct. And there's probably even room for one more. I mean, pragmatically, given the size of their convention facility, in the room count they have on campus, they could use considerably more. And a lot of the older hotels that are in the immediate area, again, up Federal Highway and so forth, are dated. So I think you'll start to see those start to get renovated.
They have to, just to keep up with the Joneses, basically.
That's right.
They're going to have to increase their product to make sure that they stay on top of it to bring it up. But think of what that impact is going to be to FAU. More people are going to come down and visit their kids as they're at college, as the bowl games become more and more popular.
Right. Well, and keep in mind that the hospital, especially now as it's evolving with the Heart Center and the Lynn Cancer Center and so forth, it needs a hotel and an extended stay product as well.
Absolutely.
Sort of an adult Ronald McDonald House, but I mean, it's not those kinds
Speaking
of
of adult, I just did a segment on 375. That product itself, Royal 375 Royal Palm, that's going to be an incredible product. Having a product like that in downtown for senior living and assisted senior living, that I think, to be able to bring the ones that we love and dear and keep family together, I think that is an incredible opportunity for our downtown.
Yeah, and it's, and many, people view some of these as, well, it's just a bunch of old people that don't do anything.
That's crap.
And it really isn't. I mean, there's go-go, slow-go, and no-go.
Right.
But, the go-go's are just looking for an alternative lifestyle that is convenience-based, and typically in a downtown area. Some of them that are in the suburbs and so forth sort of have one place, but when you look at the population that lives on the east side that's aging, myself included, not yet, but, and don't necessarily want to move out of the area.
Right.
There's not a lot.
They want to be close to their family, have the opportunity,
or have mom and dad
and
close.
have mom and dad close.
Yeah. So I think it's more than worthwhile, and it's just on the edge of downtown enough and it's close to the park and a variety of other things, walking distance to a lot of different opportunities for them. So, we're doing a project 327 as opposed to 375 right down the street, and about ready to top out, and it's had extraordinary success as well.
So bringing from Midtown all the way over to the oceanfront with what they're talking about doing in the oceanfront, what are your thoughts on the oceanfront?
Well, two things. One is the city does a pretty good job of it, but it's like freedom is eternal vigilance. You need to keep the renourishment going, and that's a huge program, and it keeps trying to get non-funded and one thing or another, and the city does a pretty good job of trying to stay on top of it along with other communities to have our voice heard, especially at the federal level where the money's come from. I was here when...
That's one thing Susan Haney is not bashful about, is asking for money to the state and to Governor Scott. I have never seen somebody be that diligent about reaching out to Scott all of the time about getting us funds.
Well, and the business development. I mean, when you think about how many corporate headquarters are here and have located in Boca Raton, and it's those enterprise dollars that have been just cut dramatically that help bring these jobs. I mean, those of us that were here when IBM moved out and there were 11 or 16 or whatever it was, 1,000 jobs moved out, It's got a little ghost townish around
Absolutely.
here. You know,
Yeah, it did.
And you had to rebuild and start over again. And I think ultimately now having the diversity of many different corporate headquarters as opposed to the one big one is certainly better. But we need to keep it going. We need to stay competitive. I mean, you look at other areas of the country, Texas in particular, and we practice nationally. So, I mean, I get to see a lot of things, especially in the Raleigh-Durham area. And we do a lot of work in Charlotte, Raleigh-Durham, and that part of the world, and in Texas. So, you know, these communities and these states are very aggressive in how they bring jobs. And it's all about jobs, you know, and making sure you have a good school district to go with it at the same time.
Sure is.
You know, I mean, it's one. You can't have one without the other.
Agreed.
That's what it boils down to. So it's, and as a result, in my world, that means I have a lot of different things that I can go be a part of and have the diversity and not be
Well,
doing the
we
same
love
thing.
having you being a part of our community, Derek.
Thank
You've
you.
been an incredible asset to us here, and I thank you for joining us at the Boca Voice.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
Yeah.
And we look forward to seeing you next week. Don't forget to follow us online and our social media outlets. We look forward to seeing you next week on the Boca Voice and Fact or Fiction Friday.